everyone. Thank you for joining us today. People are coming in, so I'm just like admitting them as they come in. And so thank you for joining us. Welcome to the UT Austin CollegeSide Chat panel discussion. First and foremost, we hope that you are all healthy and well. This horrible virus is affecting communities around the world, and we empathize with you all as you navigate the already anxious transition to college during a pandemic.
So we all hope that this fireside chat will provide you all with a glimpse into the life at UT Austin and an opportunity to hear about our panelists' stories and experiences. This discussion will be about an hour long, and the first will be your panel answering previously submitted questions, while the second half will be more of an open discussion with y'all.
We encourage you all to turn your cameras on so our panelists can see who they're talking to. However, only do so if you consent to being recorded. We will be uploading the recording on YouTube for other students to watch and for all of you to refer back to. We're going to kick things off with introductions. So we'll have each of our panelists introduce themselves with their names, pronouns, hometowns, years, majors, and the first things that they're going to do when they get out of quarantine.
So, hey everyone, I'm Andrew Daring. I go by he, him, his. I'm from a really small town called Merton, Texas. I'm a first year Plan 2 major, and first thing I'm going to do whenever quarantine is over is I'm going to go camping with some friends from UT actually.
Hey everyone, my name is Krisha Chapathi. My pronouns are she, her. I'm from Houston, Texas, and I'm a first year biochemistry honors major. The first thing I'm gonna do once quarantine is done is definitely go explore the part of Houston that I've missed out on in college with my high school friends.
Hi everyone, I'm Amanda. I'm a first year Plan 2 and public health major. I go by she, her, hers. I'm from Coppell, which is a small town outside of, not a small town, a small suburb outside of Dallas. And the first thing I'll do is probably like sit in a Starbucks with my friends, less than 6 feet apart.
Oh, I think you're muted.
Okay, yeah, sorry, I couldn't unmute myself. I was trapped. Anyways, hello, I'm Ryan Brown. I'm a first year BHP and MIS major, also from the aforementioned Coppell suburb. Pronouns are he, him, his, and the first thing I'll do when I get out of quarantine is probably play volleyball. I've been missing it a lot.
Hi, my name's Eliza Pillsbury. I'm from Houston, Texas, which is where I am right now. I am a Plan 2 and journalism double major. I'm getting a certificate in core texts and ideas, and I just picked up a minor in English. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I have, my birthday is on May 25th, and so I'm hoping that, that I can celebrate with friends then or after.
All right, hi guys, my name is Gabe Rocha. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm a first year chemical engineering major from the Woodlands, Texas, minoring in Chinese and business. The first thing I'm gonna do when quarantine is over is I'm gonna go to Austin and eat at Don's Japanese Kitchen.
Okay, now that you've gotten a glimpse of who our panelists are, we're going to start with the most commonly asked questions through the Google form. And so the first one is, how have you changed the most in college, and how has UT influenced that change?
I can take this one. So at UT, I've definitely become a lot more expressive and comfortable in being myself. And I think that's kind of actually reflected in my dramatic change in fashion in some sorts. All of a sudden I was like, wow, I can wear all these cool outfits I've always wanted to. And a lot of that is definitely because of Austin in general. People just do what they want and they don't judge you. You know, it's honestly incredible the freedom we have in Austin.
Yeah, so I honestly think I've changed in a lot of ways at UT, and I think it's natural and bound to happen. The biggest way is definitely being more open-minded and kind of listening to different perspectives and kind of growing my own perspective based off of that. So I'm really thankful to have been in a lot of different spaces on campus this year through different orgs and programs, and all of it has kind of taught me to be a better leader and being more considerate of others and being more of a listener than someone who takes up space. And I think that that's something that will carry with me very far, and it's something that I'm definitely going to be growing more throughout the rest of college. So I think UT has brought me so many different perspectives that I didn't receive at my high school, and that's definitely helped me grow to be a more well-rounded person.
Yeah, similar to what they have both said, I think being at UT has given me a lot of not only independence but confidence. And also, if my mic goes weird again, let me know, and I will mute myself. But yeah, I had wanted the kind of confidence of being at college or the independence of being at college for so long, as I am sure a lot of you are feeling. And so just getting to choose my own schedule for the day, choose my own classes, and like take responsibility for my actions and their consequences, I think was a huge like part of my transition once I got to college. And I just think it's made me more confident, more able to speak about myself, and yeah, I'm really grateful for, I think, UT like, because it's so big and because there's so many opportunities, you really have to start to advocate for yourself. And so that's something that I've learned since starting college.
Awesome. Thank you all. So the next question we have is describe UT Austin's student culture and academic climate.
I'm up again. So I think the biggest thing is that it changes per program. So, for example, one of my majors is in Moody College, and I think Moody culture is super collaborative and innovative and very creative. So just like has a ton of energy all the time, which I love. But it can be overwhelming, obviously. And then Plan 2, I think it has a reputation for being pretentious, which I mean, sort of. But I think my favorite thing about Plan 2 is just that everyone is so, like, it's such a high level of like caliber and excellence, but they also have very different interests. And so it's really cool for me to be able to be around people who are like great at what they do, and what they do is different than what I do. So I think that's really cool. And then I will also just say, like, in general, I think there's a lot of school spirit, which was awesome. I didn't like realize how big of a deal that would be at going to a big state school. But also I think there's a healthy amount of criticism, skepticism, just like everyone at UT is willing to, maybe not everyone, but most people are willing to not only like go along with the crowd and like have a good time, but also like think critically about the culture that they're propagating. So yeah.
I want to second everything Eliza said. Like, definitely, it depends on your program and your school. So for me, I'm in the CNS and liberal arts for Plan 2 as well. And so for CNS, it's a very like kind of like it can be competitive, but everybody's very passionate about science. And like, I don't know, I feel like there's a big conception that whenever you like major in science, it's a lot of people who like don't necessarily want to do that. But as I'm in freshman research initiative and a few other like organizations and programs that are like just really show you that people have like a really big passion for whatever it is they picked and are incredibly dedicated to everything they do. Like every organization you'll join, like there will be people who just stand out to you as like incredibly passionate. And then at the same time, like school spirit is a really big thing. Love Saturdays, and football. So I would say like it's a really good balance, and definitely I would encourage y'all to like explore and see like what sections of UT you like best, because it's such a big school and like you can definitely find what you're looking for.
Yeah, so I'm going next. So I'll say like two main things. Like generally, like yeah, it differs between colleges, but like I think generally kind of everyone has like a work hard, play hard attitude. Like everyone's like here to do big things. Like, you know, what starts here changes the world, whatever. But like, you know, everyone's like here to do what they want, but also like everyone's here to have fun. So you don't have to worry. Like it's like very rare to find people like even if like they're in like some like super duper like, you know, hard competitive whatever major, like they're still gonna like want to have fun with you on the weekends or like during the week or whatever. And then specifically I'm in business, so to speak to that, like you may or may not have heard about this, but like the focus isn't as much on academics as business. It's more like focused on like orgs, like and networking and stuff. So there's like it's really competitive applying to like different like business organizations, like finance and consulting orgs. And there's like a lot of pressure to kind of join these things. It could be sometimes described as toxic. It can or cannot be. It just depends really on how you deal with it. My experience with it wasn't great at the beginning. I kind of especially if you don't really know what you're doing, it's kind of hard. Like you feel pressured into doing these things, even though like, you don't really know why. And so if you are going into business, just like be aware that like culture is there, but like it's made out to be way more important than it is. Like it really doesn't matter what you do. Just like find your people and do like whatever you want to do, even if other people are doing like certain things associated with clout or whatever, like that's what they want to do. But if that's what you want to do, then it doesn't really matter. And as long as you find what makes you happy, then like everyone's going to be successful. So it doesn't really matter.
So our next question is, what do you recommend for choosing courses for the first semester, focusing on the breadth requirements or going right into important classes for your selected major?
So this question really depends on your major and the way that your major kind of arranges your courses. But personally, I would focus a little bit more on your core requirements, mostly because a lot of us come in here with some sort of college credit. You know, it could be IB or AP or dual credit or anything like that. And the way you learn in these sort of classes is going to be so much more different than your college courses. You know, you really need to adjust your learning style, your work ethic, and your schedule, because you can decide whether or not you go to class. You can decide whether or not you go to office hours. You know, like it's all dependent on you. And I'd rather have this learning experience with a class that, while is interesting, isn't as important to my degree, rather than a class that I really need for like prereqs and stuff like that. And on that note, I wouldn't rush my time at UT. You know, it might seem really cool to graduate in like 3 years or 3.5 years, but take time to focus on yourself and focus on finding the best, I guess, pathway for you, rather than just earning your degree as fast as possible. Because no one really, like, it's not a big difference if you graduate in like 3 years or 4.5 or 5 years. Like, it really doesn't make much of a difference.
I definitely agree. There's like a lot of core requirements that you'll have to complete, even if you come in with AP credit. So I would say try to find a balance between like difficulty in classes, and your academic advisor at orientation will help y'all like with any specifics. But for me, I was trying to balance like writing courses and science courses. And also I would recommend like whenever you're picking your core courses, pick stuff that you think you'll enjoy. Like I picked art history, and that like has nothing to do with what like I plan to do with my like career, but and I ended up just really liking it and making friends in the class. And my professor was really cool, even though it was a really big class. Just try to like find a balance that makes sense for you.
Yeah, I agree. I think it definitely depends, but like on the large part, it's better to get your core out of the way first. Like it depends on your mindset too. Like for me personally, like I was like done with taking like unrelated classes in high school. Like I don't want to get that out of the way as fast as possible. So like now after like my first year, like now I'm done taking like non-business classes basically, unless like I choose to, which is like what I want, instead of like having to put it off and like, oh, like junior year I have to take like an AP like or a US history. Like, you know, I don't want to do that. But like if you're fine with that and you'd rather like get started on those more interesting classes sooner, then you can just like know what you want. And also like if you're kind of like not sure of like exactly like what major you're going to be like, or like what specification or like what minors you want, then like you can try to look into taking those classes that are like key in deciding. Like me, for example, I took like the basic Python class like a bit earlier like than most people do, and like I found out like I really like it, and like my major is gonna be based on that now. So like, you know, it can be good, just kind of depends on like on what like your mindset is versus putting things off, and like if you know what you want to do or not and stuff like that.
Thank you. So for our next question, our audience wants to know, what do you dislike the most about UT Austin and how can it improve? So go off.
So, I don't know. I mean, there's, I think, a lot of criticisms about UT, but I have had a great time here so far. The biggest thing that I've struggled with is, you know, I didn't want to go to a big state school. I am so glad I have. I was just saying that I didn't think I was going to go to a big state school. My other, like, most of my other choices were like had less than 2,000 people total. Um, I'm so glad I ended up at UT, and I think it's such a great place for me, but the times when I do feel the size is during registration, also at football games, but that's awesome. During registration, it can be really hard. I am trying to do a ton of stuff, cram a ton of stuff into my 4 years, and so my 4-year plan is pretty complicated. It's pretty tight. And I've had to do most of that on my own, most of like figuring out the like, when am I going to take certain classes and stuff like that. It's totally doable if you're in multiple programs. I would say, like, I have multiple advisors just because I have multiple majors and, so take advantage of all of your, like, if you have 3 advisors, ask all of them questions because they are all there to help you. Ask for advice and just be like over prepared. I spend, I don't know how many hours planning my schedule, and it's hard, but it's totally doable. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, I will say that it's really hard to think of something that I dislike about UT, which is a great thing because there's so many things that I really love about it. If I was to pick, I would definitely say the size can be overwhelming. At first, it was something that can definitely make you feel a little bit lonely during the transition from high school to college, but now it's one of the things that I love most about UT. I can go every day or every week and like meet a new person. And I think because of the spaces I'm in, so I know someone was asking about WINS in the chat. I am actually in WINS. So like spaces like WINS, like Polymath Honors. I know some orgs that I'm in, like Senate, in student government and natural sciences council. All of those help to make UT feel so small, as well as your figs. Like those are the places where you make those friendships that make UT feel so small and connected. And if it does seem intimidating or scary at first, just remember that it takes time for everyone to adjust. And for most people I know, it's one of the things that they really love about UT now. So size, it's scary, but it shouldn't be something that kind of like turns you away from UT or turns you away from any opportunities at UT. And then the other thing that I kind of struggled with being in a lot of legislative student orgs such as I was in, I did see interaction between administration and students a lot. And I will say that administration at UT, because it's so big and there's so many people handling all these moving parts, aren't always the most receptive to student thoughts. But with a lot of persistence and students like rallying together to make their voices heard for different communities, we definitely are able to make a lot of great change on campus.
Okay, I'm gonna be the third person to say that it's probably the size too. I love UT, but I definitely, like, my other choices were also really small. They were like 6,000 people, or just generally like not 50,000 people for undergrad. So I definitely felt overwhelmed coming in because like we don't have the same like intimate like student visit day that like other schools had. So I felt like kind of being thrown into like the ocean. But at the end of the day, definitely joining student orgs is like a really good way to make UT feel smaller, and you'd be surprised at how quickly you start to like recognize faces on campus and make connections, and it just starts feeling small, like going to the dining hall, you see people you know. And I agree with Krisha. I'm also in an LSO that administration can seem really out of touch, but our students are just so great, and there's so many people working to make student voices heard that like we are able to make a lot of change through persistence. The next question is, what has been your most memorable experience at UT?
Yeah, so I'll take this one first, and I'll just preface it with like, it's like hard to choose. It isn't like necessarily like the most memorable because like there's gonna be so many super memorable things that happen, and like it's gonna just be like a fantastic time, like the entire time. But not the entire time, but you know what I mean. But one like more recent experience that comes to mind, it was like in February before like Corona and everything started happening, and like in February the weather was like kind of whack. It was like very shifty, and so me and some of my friends in business council, we had planned like a spike ball and boba day on the lawn. It was like for a Friday, so people like would be out of classes. But like we were like not sure if the weather would be nice, like it might be like rainy and cold, whatever. But it ended up being perfect. Like it was 75 and sunny outside, like a little bit of a breeze, and like everyone was free. So we had like 30, 40 people on the lawn. Like everyone had a boba. We had like a giant beanbag brought out, like multiple games of spike ball going on. Just everyone was having a really good time. And like it might not sound super special, but it's just like being kind of like with your people that you love and like having a good time. And you're all having fun, and like you get this feeling of like this, this is where I belong, and it's really like great. And I think like it just shows like emphasizes like find your people, like, and people like really gonna be like the things that make you happy here. Like you're not gonna remember like the GPA freshman year or like whatever. Like don't like not work hard, but like what's gonna like at the end of the day, what's gonna matter to you most is like the people and connections you make and the memories you make with them.
So for me, the coolest thing that ever happened at UT was waking up from a nap and going out of my dorm and seeing people like running down Speedway. I was like, yo, what's going on? So like with people running, I like ran with them obviously, and I see Matthew McConaughey, Joe Jonas, and Sophie Turner all by the museum, and I was like, oh, like I couldn't even like move. I was like, oh, it's like Joe Jonas, and I don't know, it was like the craziest thing ever, and I still think it was a dream. But my most memorable experience was probably my first weekend at UT. My residence hall, Jester East, we had a speed finding event, and it was like speed dating, but like with friends, obviously. And I didn't really meet anyone like that we clicked like during the actual event, but afterwards, I saw some friends that I'd known like from the hallway, and then we just like started talking, and then there was like this big group of people just started like adding on one by one, and we ended up like hanging out for like 4 hours afterwards. And I was like, whoa, is this like a thing now? Are we like best friends? And like the next night we had pizza night in my dorm, and then next weekend we had game night, and we've been hanging out like all semester, and it was like we pretty much met by accident. And the cool thing about making friends in college is that you have so many experiences in such a short amount of time. Like we even like visited each other before like quarantine was a thing. Like we made such like great connections, and we pretty much met like by accident. And that was like the coolest thing ever. Like your first weekend at UT. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Gabe. For sure, it's so easy to make friends on campus. I was really worried about it, but everyone else is also looking to make friends, so I wouldn't stress about it too much. For my most memorable experience at Austin, I don't know if anyone else in the chat went to the UT LSU game, but that's like that holds a special place in my mind. It was so much fun. It was the game of the week, like the ESPN called it, the game of the week across the nation. So there's a ton of national hype surrounding it, and all of us were showing up to the game like hours early. Like I think we showed up like 5 hours early or something. We just sat there, and everyone was just so excited to get in that we all just bum rushed the gates. Like we just ran right past all the ticket people and stuff like that. It was like World War Z. It looked crazy, and no one could stop us. But yeah, once we got into the atmosphere was just absolutely insane. Like the guy next to me, yep, I'm 100% sure he was from a frat, but he was like waving a severed deer head around the crowd and stuff like that. It was crazy. But yeah, football games are something special. It's a lot of fun. Okay, let's see. Next question. Discuss some of your insecurities as an incoming freshman joining such a selective class. Okay, I can start off with this one again. My main insecurity, and I suffered a lot from this on freshman year, not freshman year, the beginning of the school year, like first semester, I had a pretty severe case of like imposter syndrome. I came from a really small school, and our academics were not very challenging at all. So I was terrified that I just wasn't going to be up to the challenge of college academics. And I was talking to UT admins throughout the entire summer. Everybody was just so incredibly accomplished and intelligent. Like your peers are so smart, and that made me feel less smart. Like I wasn't really supposed to be there or something like that. But at some point, you really have to realize that UT would only admit you if they feel like you could succeed. And they're really good at determining that, knowing who can succeed, because they've been honing the admissions process for years, since they've been a thing. And that also includes auto admins. You're very deserving of being at UT. I still often feel like I fall below my peers, but I've still made a lot of progress, I feel like.
Yeah, there are honestly so many insecurities going into college, and I think that that's something that's common for everyone. So definitely, I felt kind of alone in it at the beginning of college because you're in this environment where you're making a lot of new friends, and it's not something that you can immediately talk to them about some stuff that they're feeling insecure about. But I promise you guys, everyone is going through their own things. So I think that the biggest thing to take away from it is how you let those insecurities affect you. So instead of letting those insecurities kind of be things that stop you from exploring all of the opportunities at UT and making friendships, let them motivate you and don't let them get you down to step out of your comfort zone, because college is really all about growth and making mistakes and learning from them. It's all like everyone's just experimenting. No one has the right answer. So that's something you definitely shouldn't feel alone in. Some personal insecurities that I faced were I did end up trying for a lot of orgs because that's something that I knew I wanted to do from the start. I've always been someone who wants to get involved, and college orgs are a little bit different where you have to apply and interview for almost all of them, and that's something that I was constantly I had a lot of self-doubt when I was going through that process, like, am I good enough to get into this org and all of that. But luckily, like, the ones that I feel really passionate about worked out, and I think it's all about taking time to reflect on yourself and not worry about everything that's going on around you, because there are a lot of people, like Andrew said, that are really accomplished and are really hardworking and motivated, but that doesn't necessarily detract from who you are. And I think a big thing that I was told, advice that I was given from the start, is that comparison is the thief of joy. And I think that's so true. If you focus on your own, growth and your learning curve in college, then a lot of your insecurities will not be able to like control you as much as they would otherwise.
So the way that I would kind of handle this is, like, when I came in the UT, like, I guess I kind of had this like ego coming in, like a lot of us. Like, I was like top this percent, and I was in this org, I was in this club, I was this president, like all this cool stuff. Like, and like, if you're in that boat, like, congratulations, like, be proud of that. Like, you did something in college, like, congrats. In high school, sorry. But also, like, you're gonna come in with the same mentality, and I don't blame you. Like, it's what I had. And like, more likely than not, you're gonna do not so well on your first few exams. It's part of what happens in college. Like, congrats, you're a human being. But the way that I would kind of attack this imposter syndrome is I would attack it like through two sides, because I felt the same way. Like, after getting the first like few B's, or the first like C's, I was like, wow, why am I at UT? Why am I in this program? Like, why did this happen? But so like, kind of like what Andrew said, you've made it this far. Like, there's absolutely no way that you made it into UT through pure coincidence. Like, everything that you have done up to this point has led you to this point, and you're a Longhorn now, and that's awesome. But also take everything that you have and that you've worked for to get to this point and use that to not just to adapt to UT, because it's a huge adaptation. It's a huge adjustment, but take that to learn about yourself. And for me, what helped the most is to separate myself from academics, because yeah, you're here to learn, you're here to get your degree, and that's awesome. Like, that's what you're here to do. It's incredible. But you also need to separate yourself from that and build your own personality. Find hobbies that you never thought you'd have before, because I'm sure someone else has that hobby. And college is just so much more enjoyable when you realize that you're the best version of yourself that you can be. And that sounds like super cheesy, but it really is so true that it changed my second semester, just allowing myself to not define myself by this GPA, because no matter what, I'm getting my degree from UT. Like, it's the coolest thing ever. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Gabe. Sometimes things are cliches for a reason, because they're true. All right, so that concludes our prepared questions. Now we're going to move on to some rapid fire questions for a little while, and then I think we're going to open up the chat to y'all to field some questions. So here's some of the shorter questions submitted. First one is, what's your favorite first year class you took?
Mine was my freshman year signature course. It was criminal justice reform, and I had two professors that were really cool. One of them is a federal judge at the courthouse in Austin, and then the other one is this like sociologist who's like really old and funny. And it was just such a fun class. We only had a few assignments, and it was only 15 people, so we got to have like really good conversations, and a lot of really good ideas were suggested.
My world literature class has actually been an all-year class, so I've gotten to know, it's also only like 16 people, and I've gotten to know them really well, and I also love the topic. It's called People, Performance, and Power, and I love theater and I love politics, so that's been my favorite class.
Mine was probably a global health class I took first semester to get rid of the global cultures flag, and it was once a week, 3 hours. It was like a 15-minute walk to the nursing building, but it was like really easy, and it was like really interesting too. Like there was like no tests, only like 30% of the grade participation, and like we had like a group project, and it was like really like low pressure because it like wasn't difficult, but also like there's like a lot of interesting things that we learned. So yeah.
My favorite course was probably world literature with Dr. Coinhaber, mostly because throughout high school we only pretty much read like American novels, and like if it was a little bit out of America, it was like Europe. It was strictly Europe, and I was like, wow, this is like interesting, but where's the flavor, you know? So like throughout the world literature, we had read like plays from Africa, plays from East Asia, plays from like South America. It was like really interesting. And whenever he would like we read a play, he'd explain the culture behind it, and he would explain why this was different than the way we would interpret it as. And it was like really enjoyable, even though I'm like not even close to being like a literature major.
Yeah, so I actually have two that I just could not decide between. The first one is, like Ryan said, that global health class. Oh my gosh, it's so good. I'm a global health junkie, so I really enjoyed it. But also, like, it was just super chill, and it was a really good environment to learn in because it wasn't as stressful, and it was just about learning people's perspectives and watching a lot of really informative videos. So I feel like I learned a lot through that class, but also had fun in it, and it wasn't like a very stressful class. Um, and then the other class is Calc 408C. So that's Calc 1, I think, like for engineering majors. And I'm not the biggest math fan. I'm much more a fan of science. But I took it with Professor Yuri Treisman, and he is unbelievably amazing. He is also older, but he's so cool. He plays music at the beginning of classes. He like gets to know each and every one of his students and holds personal office hours with them. He just has so many connections. He has been involved in a lot of STEM education programs. He's been working like for a lot of different politicians to help improve the education system. So I definitely recommend that class.
So for my favorite class, it would 100% interpersonal communication theory with Professor John Daly. It's like pretty much a life lesson. It's like a class on life lessons. You just learn how to like be a people person. It's really cool.
Okay, the next rapid fire question is, what's your favorite place to study?
Okay, my favorite place to study is definitely the Fireside Lounge. Fireside Lounge, not my house, in the Student Activity Center. It's really fun and it's nice and cozy.
Yeah, mine is in the SAC2, the Student Activity Center. It's in this little arts and crafts kind of room on the second floor, I think. And if it's good weather outside, then I like to go kind of like in the back of the SAC. There's some nice tables and a lot of trees there. But yeah, the SAC has a lot of activity and it's very energetic, so that definitely helps me motivate to study.
I have two. So first, I lived in the honor squad, and we have like the joints reading room, and they have these like discussion rooms with like a ton of whiteboards, and at night like nobody's using them and they don't close till 11. It's such a good place to study. And then also the Norman Hackerman building, which is like a bio and chem building, and they usually take you there during tours. The fifth floor has amazing lighting. It's such a like sciencey place, very motivating.
Not very interesting. Mine's probably like the fifth floor McCombs. There's like some nice spaces that have whiteboards, or my room because I have like a monitor, so it makes it easier.
Mine is a tie between the life science library in the tower and the Cafe Medici on Guad because I love studying in coffee shops.
Mine would be the group study lounge, the group study room on the 6th floor of the PCL, because it's like a quiet floor, but it's also like the thing you'll notice about quiet floors of the PCL, like the first two are like dead. Like no life comes in, no life comes out. But the 6th floor, I'd say, is like, yeah, it's quiet and like, they'll shush you, which is good, you know, obviously because you need to study. But you just are allowed to just like breathe and like maybe cough every once in a while, which you can't get at all on like the 3rd and 4th floors. But yeah, I'd always reserve it.
Okay. So our next question is, what is your biggest regret in college so far?
Right, very deep, but mine was probably like at the beginning of the year, I was like very disappointed, like whenever I got rejected from some student orgs, and also like very just like fish out of water. I missed home, so I like didn't get as involved as I wish I had earlier on. And so like I was definitely like I felt like I was trying to catch up, and then the whole coronavirus thing happened. So it just like feels like a little letdown, but we have next year.
Yeah, similar to Amanda, I joined one org first semester, and then I felt like super insecure because I wasn't doing enough. And so I swung all the way in the other direction, and I was in like 7 orgs before we had to leave campus. And that was way too much. And I really regret that because the first couple weeks on campus were really stressful. So something that I'm working on is finding a balance. I've picked 2 organizations that I really want to just invest in because like quality over quantity, I think, when it comes to involvement. And so, yeah, just I think the other moral of that story is don't compare yourself to others, which I know is a lot easier said than done, but you are going at your own pace, and there's so many other people who are doing awesome stuff. So if you spend all of your energy comparing yourself to them, then you won't be able to do your own awesome stuff because you're wasting energy on other people. So
My biggest regret is probably the room that I chose for my dorm. I didn't like look into it because my roommate had the earlier selection slot, so I was like, you know what, I trust you. Like, you choose whatever you want. And he ended up getting the dorm right next to the study lounge, right next to the elevator, and right next to the bathroom, which was absolutely terrible. So I for some reason my door was like somehow less soundproof than everyone else's was. So I would hear every time someone walked in, every time someone like would like blink during in the study lounge. Like, it was the worst thing to do when I had to sleep and at an 8 a.m. like the next morning. So please be careful and look at the hall, look at the floor plan before you make a decision on your dorm.
Yeah, I'd say my biggest regret was probably um being like hard on myself first semester. I feel like I spent a lot of time trying to make it like all so perfect that I kind of forgot to like enjoy and invest in a lot of the friendships I was making. And second semester was a lot better because I was able to balance everything that I was involved in, both classes and orgs, and also really prioritize and value my friendships. So also a big way to try to avoid having like a lot of regrets freshman year that worked for me was to just be really open to talking to upperclassmen and learning from them, like literally just asking them like, hey, what was your advice so far in college, like anything like that. The more people that you can talk to get their advice, I feel like the better informed decisions you can make.
Yeah, I'll echo Amanda and saying like not getting involved with as many things, just like you're kind of like iffy, like, oh, like I don't know if I want to do this, like I'm not super sure, like no, like literally just do everything. And like I feel like I was probably told that before I went in and I still didn't do it, but like actually like try to put effort forth to do that, because like you'll regret not getting involved with things, especially with a lot of orgs. Like there's like one like app season after like applications are done, like you're kind of like stuck for the semester. Like there's some like open like orgs don't require applications, but like a lot of the things, like if you're like, oh, like I don't want to put the time in for this application, or like I don't know if I want to join this, like just do it anyways, just to get involved in more things. And then also, what Christian said reminded me. Wait, just kidding. I totally forgot what she said, but it was relevant. Wait, what did you say, Krisha?
I was talking about being hard on myself and then also talking to a lot of upperclassmen for advice.
Oh yeah. Okay, talking to upperclassmen. Yes, like I was like kind of scared of like upperclassmen first semester. Like I didn't like talk to them as much, and like I was like, oh, like my friends are freshmen. Like it's kind of hard to be friends with upperclassmen, but like just like they have so much like insight to give you, and like there's so many things like you don't have to go through. Like if you can like hear it from somebody who's already had to go through it, and like like I can say like as like next year I'll be a sophomore, I guess. Like I'm like super excited, like, and I want to talk to like all like the freshmen that are coming in, like, and give them all like the advice and wisdom that I have with my like one small year of college experience. So like go out of your way to talk to them. Like it's gonna be scary at first, but like they're people just like you, and like there's a year ahead, and that's all. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely talk to upperclassmen, and y'all can talk to us. I'll drop my email in the chat now and then at the end of it. For my biggest regret so far, I would say definitely not getting enough sleep first semester. I took it on like a day-by-day thing. I was like, okay, I'll try and get better sleep tomorrow. But I just kept not doing that. And then after a while, I realized, this isn't just like a bunch of single occurrences. This is just like my life. I'm always waking up cranky and having to take naps and stuff. So really be mindful of that. Like it can turn into a bad habit very fast.
Okay, so the next question is, where did you live freshman year?
You might have muted Amanda, or maybe my internet cut out. I'm not sure.
Sorry. Okay. So the next question is, where did you live freshman year?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I lived in Jester West. It's the biggest dorm. It's a lot of fun. There's always something going on, and you always run into your friends there.
So I lived in Kinsolving, which is an all-girls dorm through WINS, which is like a living learning community. So my entire floor was other WINS girls, and I really like that area. It's kind of near like the Honors Quad and Whitus and like Durin and all those areas. It's really peaceful for me. So yeah.
I lived in the Honors Quad in Andrews, which is like, the way I describe the Honors Squad is that like Blandon like has this like very set like social personality, then Carruthers is like pretty quiet, but also like has kind of a distinct feel. But Andrews is like kind of like just a mix. It's kind of random, but I really liked it. I had a pretty quiet floor, and I roomed with a girl from my high school who I love. And so I would recommend, if you can live in the Honor Squad, do it, because you will make so many friends just from like how much smaller it is.
So I lived in Jester East. I'd say like if you're looking for like the college experience, like it's the biggest dorm, or Jester West is bigger. But that's probably the difference between the two. Like they're basically the same. Jester West has like 4 more floors, I think, and also like Jester West has like bigger like study rooms in the lobbies, and like their lobby is kind of nicer, and like West is like directly connected to like Gendy's like in the dining hall. While like if you're from Jester East, you have to like walk through like a little like outdoor hallway, which has like a like giant like concrete roof and everything. You still have to like walk out there. That's like the only difference. But also like 14 floors is kind of a lot of floors. Like you can wait like really long in the elevators. I was on the 5th floor, so it wasn't that bad. But yeah, Jester is awesome.
I lived in the honor squad also, and I didn't have a great experience, partly because of my roommate, but that was my fault. But I would second what Amanda said. I lived in Carruthers, and so I think the best part of the honor squad is like meeting people, and it feels like this really small, tight-knit community. And our floor was like super quiet. I like didn't know any of my neighbors. So, but I also would recommend the honor squad still, because the location is awesome. It's super close to Kins, it's super close to Guad, and the location is unbeatable, I think.
I lived in Jester East, which is, you've heard a lot about Jester East already, but next year actually I will be a resident assistant at Moore Hill. So the difference between the two is like Jester East, you'll get like the college experience, you get like the loud floors, you'll get the big dorms, you'll get like all that craziness. But in Moore Hill, you'll get like the more like kind of what Kins has, like the more tight-knit community. And it's really just what you prefer if you choose to only stay on campus for a year, or if you don't decide to stay on campus at all.
Okay. And for our last rapid fire question, we have, what is something you didn't expect from UT, good or bad?
So for me, I think it's like, at first professors seem like very unapproachable and like it's kind of like up on a pedestal, but to be honest, like they really want to talk to you. Like they want people to reach out to them, go to office hours, and like talk about like the stuff that they're interested in, because like at the end of the day, like they're all like nerds at heart. Like my bio teacher, it's a huge class, but she like loves plants, and she will talk to you about like the mushrooms in her yard. So I just like recommend like talking to them.
I was also, I've talked about it before, I was scared about how big the school was, but something that I didn't expect is I literally couldn't walk anywhere on campus without seeing someone I knew, often like 10 people I knew. And it got frustrating because I was like, I look awful, like I'm going to an 8 a.m. and I see every one of my friends, but it's honestly kind of fun. It makes it feel like not quite as intimidating. You find your places on campus, like around like KINS and the communications buildings. I would like start to see people there who frequented that area. So I didn't expect it to feel like such a tight-knit community, honestly.
I have not thought of anything. Come back to me.
So I guess mine's kind of like the opposite of Eliza's. I didn't really grasp how big UT was until my first class. It was Organic Chemistry 1, and the class was in this huge auditorium, and it was like 400 people. And like for a class like OChem, you really need to like study really hard. And you need to like have like, you need to be thinking about OChem all the time, which I didn't, but you know, you have to do it. And I guess I wasn't used to having a class of like 400 people. Like I was just so used to like talking to the teacher and being like, oh yeah, how do I handle this? Like just casually. And I get like, you can do that, but it's just like, you need to approach it from a different way when you're in a class where you're literally not even like 1% of the students. And also walking over between speedways is so the walk is so long, and it's like 15 minutes just from one side to the other. And when we have an 8 a.m. in an engineering building, it's the worst walk you've ever experienced.
So I definitely didn't expect to meet so many passionate and caring and supportive people. Like, it was insane to me to see how kind-hearted all of the people I'd met were. And also I didn't expect to find like some of the things that I feel so passionate about so quickly in college. That being said, like, this is me speaking at the end of freshman year, but at the beginning of freshman year, I definitely couldn't say the same. So don't go into it expecting that you're gonna like make all these friends and like have the best time of your life right at the start. It's kind of something that comes towards the end of first semester, beginning of second semester, and but it will definitely come. And the people at UT are some of the best people I've met in my life.
Yeah, so trying to remember the question. What was it? Oh, it's something that surprised you or something? Yeah, okay. So something that surprised me whenever I got on campus was definitely like the diversity. You know, I come from like I said, I come from a really small town where everyone's just pretty much white hicks, and coming on campus and like hearing about everybody's backgrounds and, you know, their differences in ideologies, it was like really amazing, and like coming from such a homogenous place. So you can like find your group no matter like what kind of person you are on campus. It's really awesome.
Okay, I thought of something. One thing that surprised me a lot was like how convenient it is. Like you don't really think about it, but like I mean, like being in Jasper, especially, like it's like a walk down the hall or like an elevator ride. Like, and I'm like in my friend's room, like I'm hanging out with friends, and like if you're in Jasper, like or like either Consulting or J2, like you can go there like as many times as you want. So like eating is basically free when you go there, and so like a lot like when you go back home and it's like, oh, like I have to drive to hang out with my friends, like I have to pay money for food, like what the heck, you know? And it's like or like you can just like study, you go to like Macombs, like wherever you prefer, like to like study or whatever, like just like hang out, like go anywhere. Like it's so easy to hang out and do things, and you're gonna go home and you'll be like, wow, like this sucks.
Okay, awesome. So that concludes our prepared questions, and we know we weren't able to answer everybody's submitted questions, but we tried to include the ones that we thought were most represented. I'm certain you all have plenty more questions, so feel free to use the like raise hand feature on Zoom if you have a question, or drop it in the group chat. You could also private message one of the moderators if you want to like keep it anonymous. So for everyone else, please be respectful to the person asking the question by staying muted. So let's jump in.
Christopher has a question.
So as I'm preparing for my 2 years as a community college and then transferring to UT, what do you guys think of the acceptance rate as an econ major?
I'm not sure on that. I don't know about the statistics, but if you're going to transfer into the College of Liberal Arts, I believe that 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 acceptance rate is relatively higher than a lot of the other colleges. So I think by applying like economics, you definitely have a better chance than like say Macombs or Cockrell. But I would say you might have to find some sort of like official website for that to see like the specific rate.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh,
Right.
my question was, how much of a social life can you have if you want to do pre-med?
I'm pre-med, and honestly, like, I think it's just like any other major, really. Like, at this point, you're like a freshman, you're taking like, I would say like probably chem and bio, and then like your other courses. Definitely, like, they're hard classes, and you're gonna have to spend a lot of time with them. But I feel like, in contrast to high school, where you're like only thinking about school for like 8 hours, you have a lot more free time to like structure your schedule in a specific way. So like if you want to, you can section off time that you say, I want to spend time with my friends, and like other times that you are going to dedicate to studying, and be like very dedicated with your time and like disciplined with your schedule. Then I think it's definitely doable to do everything you want.
Yeah, and I want to add on to that really quickly because I'm also pre-med, and personally, I feel like I took a lot of hours my first semester, and I was also like in a lot of orgs, and I was still able to balance some of that social life, and then like reducing that and not taking as many hours and not being involved in like a lot of orgs. It's so doable. I feel like people kind of put out this myth that like if you're pre-med you can't have a social life, but that's completely untrue and just kind of like used to scare people, I feel like.
Before we do Riley's question, I'm going to answer Austin's in the chat real quick. He said, let's see, how do you manage your time between studying and fun stuff like going to games? One short answer to that is you don't sometimes. Sometimes you have to make some sacrifices a lot. And that's just part of the process. Freshman year is just figuring out how to manage your time. That's the biggest, like, that's the steepest learning curve at a big college like UT where there's so many things to do. But yeah, kind of like Eliza said, you definitely just have to set some rules for yourself. Like, I'm going to get this done today. And then, you can have some discretionary time to do whatever you want. We can take Riley's question next. If that's okay.
Oh, okay. So I don't know if anyone asked this question earlier, but I saw it in the chat, and I was wondering if someone's on a pre-law track, do the advisors incorporate classes that prepare you for law school, even if your major isn't necessarily law-oriented?
Yeah, you can take it, Eliza.
Yeah, I'm not pre-law, but my best friend is, so I can answer some of that. And I can also, if you want to email me, I can ask her as well. But I think depending on your major, you're going to have some like elective times. And so that would be a good time to choose, even if it's not like this is a legal class, this is a law class. It could be something like Amanda's criminal justice class that, there are useful classes that you can find, and like we've all said, like ask people. I don't necessarily know about the advisor relationship, but I'm sure if you declare pre-law that like they will be able to help you with that. They're really knowledgeable. So yeah, just asking for advice. Sorry, I don't know if that's super helpful.
It was, thank you.
Hi, Ali.
Yeah, hello. I don't know if this applies to like all colleges, but like I read about first year interest groups online, FIGs, and like when do we get like our assignment? Like when do we get assigned our interest group? So like, is it only for like College of Natural Science students or like for everyone else?
So your FIGs are arranged by major. It's either arranged by major or like if you're in a specific program or community or living learning community, then it's arranged by that. So you get your figs at orientation, and this year orientation is going to be online, but I know that they'll still be giving you all figs most likely, and you'll probably have like online meetings with your figs. But the really cool thing about figs is that a lot of your classes are going to be similar to other people in your figs, so that's a really easy way to make friends. And for me, my fig was in WINS, but for some people, like they have a biochemistry fig or other major, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I got it. All right.
See, we have one, where did it go? Something about, oh yeah, how was your first day of freshman year? In my experience, it was pretty terrifying, showing up, and then my mom and my brother left after I got all moved in, and I was like, what do I do now? There's too much to do. And yeah, it overall wasn't bad. Still, it like intimidated.
It's really warm in Austin, like really, really hot. So I was just sweating a lot. And so it was just, I kept going back to my room and just like turning on the fan and just being so tired. But honestly, like people are really nice to you on your first day, and like just like there's gonna be a support system, and you should definitely seek out other people because everybody's feeling nervous.
I feel like for me, like you don't do that much because like it's syllabus week or whatever, right? But so like you have a lot of time, but like also like you just got there, so it's like you don't have like a group of people like to spend like all your time with. So for me, it was like I felt like I should be like hanging out with people the whole day, but like half time I like be in my room like with like nothing to do. So like it's gonna be like that. Like it gets better. It's
I just saw a question in the chat about opinion on Greek life, and I will say as a member of Greek life that I have mixed opinions. I chose to join a sorority, and it made a really big difference in my first semester just to kind of have a group of people. Like on the first day, I already knew there were people that I could connect with. But that said, I think there's a lot, our community needs to take a lot of steps towards being more responsible members of the larger UT community. So I think it just depends on, you'll find your people, and even if, you know, this goes to not Greek life organizations, but like you'll find your people in different unexpected places sometimes. And I have found some in a sorority, I found some in my classes. So it's definitely not, it can seem like it's like the only thing that's going on sometimes, but there's always so much going on. So that's kind of a mixed answer, but I can elaborate on that if anyone wants to contact me later.
Another thing I wanted to mention is that if you feel like Greek life maybe is a little bit too much of a commitment for you, then there are spirit groups on campus, which are similar in a lot of ways. And I've heard really good reviews from my friends about spirit groups as well.
Also, I saw on the Google form there were questions on like recruitment, and so that's something that like you can check out with the individual organizations. Like I know the Pan-Hellenic Council for sororities, and then every like spirit group on their Instagram page at the beginning of the year will post information on like their application process and their info sessions.
Yeah, so Panhellenic will start before the school year, but the spirit groups will start like the first 2 weeks of the school year.
So winters at Austin, so we were pretty lucky to get snow. I think it was early February, right? Can someone like early February, and that was pretty nice. I think it was cold for me up until like March, like pretty much until we had to leave. I was wearing like sweats until we had to leave UT. And it didn't start getting cold until like November. So it's like pretty manageable. I've lived in Texas almost my whole life. So I feel like winters at UT are pretty good compared to like colleges up north.
I will say something I didn't expect. I've also lived in Texas my whole life, but I think I'm from Houston, but the weather in Austin is, I think, a lot, even more like capricious. It changes. Like we had snow, the next day it was like 90 degrees outside. So, you know, that kind of like up and down happened definitely up until we left campus.
Also, it's really rainy sometimes, like during the fall and stuff. So like bring like a just like some form of rain jacket and like umbrella because you will need it. But the dorms, like they do have umbrellas. Usually I think that you can rent out, but those can always like run out. So just like be prepared for that.
I didn't bring rain boots with me to college, and that was another mistake. Buy rain boots if you can.
Someone in the chat asked how much time you spend studying versus orgs. Like I would say it definitely depends on the classes you're taking and the orgs you're in. Like Greek life obviously can take up like a lot of time, and a lot of like I'd say like a good portion of like the non-Greek life orgs is like they still give you like a good sense of community. A lot of it is like you can choose, like there's like meetings like, you know, like somewhere from like 2 like to 5 or 6 hours a week, and then other than that it's gonna be like how much time you choose to go to like the extra events, like how much time you choose like to spend out with people that or hang out with people that you've like met in that group. So it just depends. And studying obviously, like if your classes are easy or like if you find them easy, then you won't study as much. It just really depends on like how many hours you're taking and like what those classes require.
Yeah,
Okay,
someone asked how many orgs would you recommend? I would say honestly, like know kind of going in how much you think you can handle, which is definitely really hard because this is your first time being in college. But for me, I applied for a lot of orgs and I had to end up dropping them because I knew I wouldn't be able to manage all of them with taking a lot of hours. I still stuck with 3, which I would say is kind of on the heavier side. I would say I definitely encourage you exploring your options your first year because that is usually when you have a little bit less work, and it's good for making community. But I would say maybe like 2 is really solid. Honestly, if you're in 0 or if you're in like a whole bunch, like you see people all over the spectrum, but I would say make sure that you're just doing stuff that you feel passionate about.
And also like being committed like to the orgs like is really important, like because like then you can like become close to those people, like and find like a sense of community, because like even like if the people in the org like are really cool but like you're like not like going out to that much stuff, you're not like getting to talk to people, like you're not going to find it as much fun even if everyone in the org loves it like a lot. Like I think it really just like finding your place in there like and enjoying it. And then if you don't, or like you don't vibe with people, then like that's okay, you know, like find, you know, you can find like other orgs like if you applied to other ones or whatever. So it just like depends, but definitely like people like you should apply to a lot just to spread yourself, so like if you get rejected or whatever, and also like to find out what you like. But like, you know, most people like that are in like 4 or 5, like you get to drop something if you want to realistically commit like to, you know, them.
We are a few minutes over time, and we'll have a few panelists have time to stay for a little while longer. But if you have more specific questions, feel free to stay. But first, I want to get this out of the way, and thanks so much for the panelists who took their time to be here, and for all of you for participating. Hopefully, you all found this to be really helpful, informative, and a fun way to learn about the UT community. We also want to take this opportunity to invite you all to help us expand CollegeSide Chats. This is a word of mouth project and we need all the help we can get. Our goal is to host several chats across various universities, and on the Instagram, there's like a bunch of other schools that have CollegeSide Chats. And so with all that said, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for the panelists for volunteering your time. Congratulations to everyone for all of your acceptances, and we hope that you and your loved ones stay safe and healthy. Welcome to UT.
As the numbers dwindle, if anyone has any other questions, a few of us, if not all of us, are hanging out for a little bit. So
yeah, one that I saw a little bit earlier up is comparing like high school AP classes to college classes. And I'd say like honestly there's no way to tell because different high schools can have like an AP class like at 2 different high schools that can be like vastly different. So it just depends. And then also like some college classes are like vastly easier than others. It's like I've had college classes that are like much easier than any like AP class I've taken in high school, and I've also had some that are like quite a bit more work. So it just definitely depends.
The biggest change that I noticed, because I was thinking about this a lot first semester, was just how different it is to have so much more time. Like I just can't even stress how much of a lifestyle change that is. I was involved in theater in high school, and so I would be at school sometimes for 12, 16, 18 hours a day and only thinking about school or like the play that I was working on. And so I think if you can learn to balance your time, and obviously it's a process, and like I would say none of us have figured it out perfectly, but that is it just makes your life easier, I think, to not have the demands of being sitting in one place for 8 hours. I think there's a lot more room to experiment with your interests, with how much you can take on. So I found that to make my life significantly easier, even if the classes were like, they were still difficult, but I had more control, I guess, over my learning.
There was one question a lot earlier. I think it was by Sarah Tahani. I think it was about balancing courses. I would definitely say download UT Registration Plus because it's a great resource. You can look at grade distributions and stuff like that, and you're able to like look at the syllabus just to like get a feel for like the course load and things like that. But I'll definitely start on the lighter end, something that you feel like you could definitely manage.
Andrew, you worked when you were studying, right?
Yeah, I had an internship for a little while. What was the question? Has anyone worked while studying? I didn't work like at the same time, or I'm sure that's not your question. I just totally misinterpreted that. Yeah, I know a lot of people who you can actually study at work at UT. They're like really lenient about that, but anyways, I would say that it's definitely manageable. A lot of my friends are doing it, taking on like 30 hours a week and still managing to, have a social life and things like that. But I would still recommend, taking it on the easier side first semester, just so you could manage it.
And like what I'll say on that as well is like think about like the reasons why you're working. Like if you need the money, like then obviously go ahead and do it. But if it's like just like to add something or whatever, like especially if you're working in like some sort of like desk job or like tech help or like whatever it is, like are those like 10 to 15 hours a week like really worth like that time, and like that 10 to 15 hours be spent like on like hanging out with friends like or anything else? It's like more fun than like, I mean it could be a fun job, but like assuming it's like a boring like kind of like low level job, like is that time really worth it, especially like if you don't need the money, then like it just depends on the situation, obviously. But like personally, like I was considering it, and I was like, well, like I'd rather hang out with like friends or like even like just watch like YouTube or like Netflix or something like for 15 hours a week than like work. So just up to you and what you think you can handle.
Also, if you are looking to add something to your resume by working, often like student orgs will give you more experience, more leadership. So that's another thing to consider if you're trying to take on a job.
I think someone asked in the chat, how is it like to be more independent? And I will say, while there's so many amazing perks to it, it can get a little bit overwhelming at times, and you can feel like a little bit stressed out with having to be an adult and make all of these decisions and really like manage everything yourself. That was definitely a transition for me that I had to face from high school, because I had like a really supportive family here who would keep me like very motivated, but I had to kind of be on my own at college and find a lot of that like motivation and discipline in myself. It isn't always the easiest, but I think just like keeping yourself accountable, and also like making things fun, like when you're studying with friends, doing stuff like that can help make being independent and like having those responsibilities a little bit less stressful and miserable.
Kind of I really like that side of the being independent question, because I would say it's like the best thing that's ever happened to me, but there were also some like difficulties. First semester, I got really sick once, and then I was stupid enough to fall off of a Lime scooter, not once, but twice, and like destroyed my knee both times. So that's actually my biggest regret, or the Lime scooter incidents. But I had to deal with not only like I got really sick, so I had to deal with like that, but also like getting my knee figured out all by myself. And when you like when you're at home and you are feeling really sick, your mom can go get you medicine. But in college, you have to get up, get dressed, and walk to the nearest CVS, which sucks. So that's something else, just like even the bare minimum, like you have to remember to eat. Your mom's not going to bring you food, you know, like and sometimes I didn't remember to eat, and that sucked. So it's just like, it's a process of like realizing, oh, I'm independent and like everything is on me now. That was a big like shift for me.
You're asked tips for business majors. I talked about this a little bit earlier, but I think like really like the big thing for me and like a lot of people I know is just like the pressure to join orgs, and like some orgs like are super competitive, and it's like you want to join it like and you get clout or whatever, and it's just like it seems like really important, especially when you're first joining, like you don't know many people, and it's like people that join, they seem like, oh, like they got into this competitive org and like they have like all these friends now and blah blah, but like it really like it doesn't matter. Like it's not like like shouldn't be correlated to your happiness. It's hard like to make that like true at first. Like whenever I first went there, like, and I was like used to like coming from a competitive high school, and I went and then like I got rejected from like all the orgs I applied to except for one that I got in like through a BS election. And I was like, oh, like this is like, you know, this sucks. Like I'm like not valuable. They don't think that I'm like, you know, worthwhile. But like first of all, like you just came to college, like admissions mean nothing because like they have no way like to actually like get to know like who you are, because like it's really arbitrary. Like if they like you say one funny thing in your application, or like you have something interesting in your resume, like then like they'll be like, oh, like this person's cool, but like they like don't have a real way to choose you, you know. So just like don't let that get to you. Like it really just matters that you join like something so that you can like meet people, and it doesn't matter if it's like the super clout like finance orgs or it's like something not business at all. So just like tip to come in, just like don't try not to like let it seem as important as people let it like make it seem. Like I was told that, and I still like let it like devastate me when I got rejected from stuff, but just try like as hard as you can like to not let that negatively impact you, because once I stopped letting it impact me, like second semester was like much better for me.
Yeah, and I wanted to add on to that in like a non-business sense as well. This is really with any orgs and even like pre-med, stuff like that. One thing that I didn't realize until after I went through the application process for these orgs is that the people who are like interviewing you and reading your applications are college kids also. And once you're a little bit like farther into college, you'll realize that they're exactly like you. And so if you do get rejected from something, don't think it's the end all be all, because really like their application process is not very telling of like who you are. It's just they just pick people who they think might be best for that certain org. And also one tip that I have for applications is the most cliche thing ever that I hated when people would tell me to be yourself, but it really does pull through. And it's something that I had to do a lot of reflection on when I was writing those applications, like all those big questions, like what are my interests? What makes me different? Like all those annoying questions. I'd say don't put too much pressure on yourself. Really just tap into the unique things that make you happy, even if you think that they aren't important. Trust me, like being true to yourself will help you stand out more than anything else.
Somebody asked about the Daily Texan, and just really quick, you don't need any experience writing in high school. I didn't write for my high school newspaper, and tryouts come out like at the beginning of the year. They'll post it on their website and all of their social media, and you just like fill out this form. They'll like send you an assignment. Usually like for news, they had me write they gave me all the instructions and then had me write a story, and then they had me like write for like a real event and then edit it with their editors. So that's kind of how it works.
Also, I just want to say I'm a journalism major, and I think that there are other options besides the Daily Texan that I did not let myself explore in the first semester, because the Texan is like so, I mean, it's like, it's epic. Like, Amanda, the fact that you're working there is so cool. But also, like, I found an organization called Spark Magazine that is more niche. There's Afterglow, which is just about music. There's tons of like podcasts and stuff that are happening in the journalism school. So there's lots of stuff if you are also intimidated by the Texan, like I am, then there's also tons of stuff you can get involved in besides the Texan. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I agree. Like the Texan is really big, and whenever you start out as like a general reporter, like they don't like pay that much attention to you, to be honest. Just because, and it's like one of the like lower jobs, but I think it's like really great experience. But do not feel like that's the only thing. Like there's so many cool publications, like Eliza said.
So I think it was Blake that asked about FRI. So I'm an FRI, and basically how it works is you should already know if you are actually no. I don't know if you already know if you're accepted or not, but once you do know if you are, you don't really have to worry about it too much until second semester, because towards the end of first semester, they will release like a bunch of information on it. And basically, they have a whole bunch of different streams. There are some that focus on plants. There's some that focus on like CS type stuff. There's some that focus on more of the biology heavy or chemistry heavy stuff. So there's a bunch of different options, and you rank which streams you're interested in after like getting a bunch of information on them, and then you get placed in a stream, and then you are in that stream for your second semester freshman year, and you can choose to continue with it after that. The really cool thing about FRI is that you get course credit for it. So a lot of the labs like biolab and chem lab, you don't have to take because you're taking like this more concentrated, cool lab that you're in. So the lab that I'm in is called BioBricks. It has a lot to do with DNA and genomes and CRISPR and all that cool stuff. So if anyone wants to talk about that, feel free to.
I'm also an FRI. I'm in bioactive molecules, which is like organic chemistry. And so I haven't taken OChem, the class, but our research educator like understands like almost nobody has, and she's really good about explaining stuff. She's very like, she's so cool. She literally didn't even major in chemistry, did her PhD in OChem in 5 years. Dr. I is literally a queen. But yeah, so everybody's really cool, and they teach you a lot of really important techniques, and then afterwards they let you apply for like a summer fellowship if you're interested. You can, the second semester of bioactive molecules is like organic chemistry lab credit, and that's like notoriously difficult like at UT, and so like it's kind of like a cool workaround for like pre-meds if you want to like get a good grade in OChem lab. So I can say so many good things about FRI. It is kind of like a class also at Blake. So you have like a lecture period, and then like they'll usually assign you to like a certain time to come into lab and then do your procedures, at least for us.
So to answer Jennifer's question, so I live on campus, and for on campus you don't like, you have to pay for food like with the housing fee, but after that you don't have really have to spend money. Like you just swipe in and it's like free, pretty much, like give or take. But without that, like I would spend like this is like a weird question. I would say maybe like 50 to 75, like going out and like having to buy stuff at Target or having to like buy stuff for classes. I'd say like maybe $75 a month. Like I don't know if anyone else wants to like jump in on this one, but I'd say like food and class supplies and like going to Target are like the biggest expenses.
I spent a lot more than that, unfortunately. My biggest problem was that I like hated the dorm food, and it is incredible how expensive food is. So, yeah, I probably spent way too much on eating out. It's so hard because Guad is right there, and there's so much good food. But the best, I think, investment of your, I guess it's Bevo bucks, is Littlefield Cafe. So good. Loved that place. That's like the only place I ate on
Their
campus.
steel cut oats in the morning are so good. Like I cannot
And their
recommend them enough.
their breakfast sandwiches,
They're really good.
incredible.
Yeah, and also to clarify, you spend, so like Viva Bucks, like you get like a 200 of those or something. You can spend those like basically like a lot of like restaurants like on Guad, like off campus, and then dine-in dollars you can spend at like JCL or Littlefield Cafe, like or anything like that. And then like for the dining halls, Kinsolving and JT, the buffet style ones, you can just like go in unlimited times. In terms of money, like really like how much money you spend literally just depends on like how much you go out to eat and like just go out in general. Like you could spend like like $50 a month just like getting groceries if you like go to the dining hall like for most of your eating, or like if you use like dine-in dollars or Viva bucks. Like if you're going out like a lot, like to eat a lot, then like you can spend quite a bit of money.
So there was a question about how your relationship with your family changed after college, and I would say that's definitely a very like person to person thing. For me, I valued my family a lot more. I would say I definitely miss them a lot. I made it a point to call every day if I could, even if it was just for 2 minutes, saying like, "Oh, I'm walking back from this place. What are y'all doing?" But I think just if that's something that you are concerned about and you feel like you might like drift away from your family or something, I think really just taking a little time out of your day to just call and see how they are goes a long way. And then there was another question that I wanted to answer about tips for someone living off campus. I would say the best thing to do is try to find an org that you're interested in so that you can have some community on campus, because that's probably something that you might not get as much not living in a dorm and living like in an apartment or wherever you plan on living off campus. So find like 1 or 2 orgs that you're interested in. Apply. Also, if you're in a FIG, then try to find some community in that or with people in your classes. It's really going to be finding that community, I think.
Can I answer the family question real quick before we move on? Something that I didn't realize like before coming to college, because my mom and I are like best friends and I tell her like everything. But what's strange is that in high school, she knew like everything that was going on with me because I'm living in her house. But in college, there were little things like but just because I'm so busy, I would forget to tell her about this assignment for class. And like, that's a huge thing that I was working on that like she didn't know about. If that makes sense, like there are little things that, or like, I don't know, like what my favorite place to eat off campus is or something like that. Like you have to be, that's something that you have to realize, like you're in a different phase of your life now. Your parents don't need to know everything that you're doing, but like you said, like being intentional, like calling every day or just like making your relationship with your family a priority is super important. And it's also important to realize that your relationship's going to change with your parents, and that's also okay.
I agree. So I love my family a lot, but we aren't like, I don't think we're as close as Eliza and her mom is. But definitely like I still wanted my mom to like be active in my life. So I like really had to make the like a schedule to call her. So I would call her every other day while walking to my 8 a.m. class. Also kept me accountable to wake up. And she would be on her way to work. So just like finding ways to, because you're walking a lot, so you can really work it into your schedule to like have really nice conversations while you're moving from one place to another. And it just like makes you feel good to know that your like family is supporting you and with you.
What's really funny is when your parents stop returning your calls, because they start building a life without you, and that's at first it's kind of weird, but then it's like, oh, that's adorable. Like my mom has taken up mahjong is now her favorite thing to do, so like that's cool too. Like your paths are diverging a little bit, and that's like, it's a good thing, as strange as it may seem.
And I'll say a bit from the other end, like it is really easy to like have very little like connection with your parents while you're away, just because the distance and like the fact like so they don't know what's going on anymore. It's like I'm not super close to my family, and so like I like didn't like keep in contact with them that often, just because like we'd like keep up like every like couple of weeks or whatever. But like when you forget, like you get busy, whatever. Like if it's not something like that's important to you, like, and you don't think about it often, like it's very easy just like to forget. And it's like, oh, like I haven't talked to my parents in a month, like maybe I should do that. So it's like easy to forget. So just keep that in mind, like whether you want that or not. Like you can, it's like definitely leaning towards, like when you come to college, like it'll make you like your relationship lean towards like being less like communication and stuff. So you have to like push back to communicate more. Like if you want to leave it that way, then you can, up to you.
There's no like dumb question. Like so many of us had such little knowledge coming into UT. Like I know people say this all the time, but I really mean it. Like there's no like shame in asking a question. It's like, you know.
I wish I asked like all the stupid questions at orientation, stuff like that.
Someone asked about being business and pre-med. What I think you mean is like being a business major and also being on the pre-med track. Not that I can like speak much for experience on that. I would say I do know someone who started off as business and then they switched to pre-med. And I think that it's as long as you communicate with your advisor and meet those certain requirements that you have to meet, because there are required classes you have to take and to be pre-med and to take like the MCAT and all of that stuff. So just being mindful of that. I definitely encourage like being, if you're pre-med, being interdisciplinary, because that's something that I feel like I have like learned to love, not always taking pre-med classes or science classes. But as long as you are getting like all of the knowledge that you need to know to prepare you for being pre-med and taking those classes, I think that's something definitely to work with your advisor on, but it's doable. People have done it.
Yeah, I can second that. Like, definitely doable.
Let's see. Jennifer asked, doing double major and double minor. Yeah, that definitely depends on like what colleges your majors and minors are in. So if you have like, econ and government, they're both in the College of Liberal Arts, so they have the same core requirements, and you don't have to worry about two different sets of core requirements. But if you do like econ and mechanical engineering or something like that, then that's like two different sets of core requirements, and sometimes take like 5 years to graduate. So yeah, if they're all like in the same college or they have like relatively similar core requirements and stuff like that overlap, then it's definitely doable, I would say.
So I'm currently double minoring, and one of my minors is in liberal arts and the other one is in business, and they're both really different because my business one I can knock out in like literally 8 weeks, but for like Mandarin Chinese I need to I really had to plan my whole like schedule around it, because you can't learn like all of Mandarin in 8 weeks. Like that's like literally impossible. So I've had to spend like 5 semesters taking Mandarin, so like 5 out of 8 semesters, like that's like most of it, and I'm not gonna I don't really want to skip a semester without I don't want to just miss out on a semester of learning it. So I really had to schedule a lot of my 4 years of UT around this minor. So it really depends on which one you're choosing, what requirements it has, and basically if it needs to be sequential or not.
I just am gonna second what Gabe said. For your degree planning, if you are doing, I'm doing a double major certificate and a minor, which is kind of insane, but if you it's gonna take a lot of work to plan in advance. Like there are some courses for some majors that you can only take at certain times. There are some courses that that you can, like Andrew said, I think that you can that count for multiple requirements. So I think it's super helpful to even first semester freshman year, just to make a rough 4-year plans. For some people that will be more important than others, but I think that's helpful for you just to kind of be thinking ahead.
Somebody asked about orientation. So everybody has a really obviously we have a very different experience than online orientation will be, but I will say that for in-person orientation, everybody has really different opinions on it. I personally really did not enjoy it, just because I was not prepared for the sheer amount of people. Registration was really stressful for me because I had a problem with some of my reserve courses, which honestly isn't really common, and nobody else on my floor had that problem. But yeah, I personally didn't put a lot of stock in it, and Eliza said in the chat, she didn't either, but definitely it is very different for everyone.
Yeah, and I kind of want to touch on orientation and registration a lot too, because I know it's super confusing. kind of like going off of what Amanda was saying, everyone has really different experiences in orientation. So for me, my orientation was heavily dependent on being in a certain program, and I ended up meeting like two of my best friends that are still my best friends in orientation. So that goes to show that you've seen probably throughout this entire call that everyone has very different experiences, and I think it's important to just not put too much pressure on like everything being so perfect, because in the end, like, I can tell you people who I know who are my friends who didn't have the best experiences at the beginning, but we all kind of like learned to love UT and learn to love the people who are around us towards the end of first semester, end of second semester, like now. And then for registration, like everyone kind of said, having like registration plus or like the UT planner are really helpful. Definitely recommend that. I think it's definitely very confusing, so don't put all the pressure on yourself to have it like figured out right now, because for me, I knew nothing going into orientation, and while it was a little bit stressful, it all got done like somehow. So it's not going to be the most pleasant experience, but just trust the process. And someone did ask how likely is it to get all of your classes that you want. It's not very likely, so like don't go in with that expectation, but know that even if you don't get all the classes you want, a lot of people are going to be in the same boat, and it's all going to figure itself out as long as you work with your advisor.
Also, like 4-year plans are important, but don't stress yourself out too much before, like even like through the first semester. Like it's pretty clear usually what classes you need to take the first semester. And then once you're talking to upperclassmen, seeing what classes are good, which ones are harder, like you can really like start to hone that as you go along.
Someone asked if freshman 15 is real, which is honestly a great question. More than freshman 15, I would say unhealthy habits are so real, and that's something that almost all freshmen, all college students face. For me, because I found myself being really busy, it was really easy to skip meals. I used to work out like every day over the summer, and then I didn't find time to work out during the school year. Going to sleep really late and just getting a lot less sleep. Those are all things that it's normal to face them, but I think recognizing them and trying to fit time into your schedule to improve on those things. So for me, second semester, I carved out more time to like actually eat every single meal, and I carved out time to go to the gym. I went to sleep a lot earlier second semester, and I prioritized my sleep because it just made me feel more energetic, and I was honestly able to learn better, and I was just happier, so I enjoyed my time with my friends a lot more. Don't put too much pressure on yourself to have it perfect from the beginning, because it's like a learning curve. Even if you have like those bad habits at the beginning, it's all about time management. So a technique that really helped my friends was actually like in your calendar putting a certain time to work out, and like having that be routine. So it's kind of like, oh, it's almost as if you're going to class, like you're going to go work out. Also, side note, there's an app called Sleepy Time, which I learned about second semester. It's kind of strange, but if you use it, like it can tell you based on your like REM cycles when you should wake up at based off of what time you go to sleep, so that you feel like more energetic. So if that's something you're interested in, feel free to check that out.
Yeah, also just one thing I wanted to say, it's pretty funny, like in the dining halls there, or like on the elevators in Jester, at least they had like these posters to be like freshman 15, like is it real? Like a whole like infographic that talks about how like it's actually like on average like freshman like 2.5 or something, and like there's like research behind it and stuff, and like they're all like, yeah, like don't worry, blah blah. But yeah, I mean, easier access to food like is what you would think, right? Like, oh, like there's a dining hall right there, I can eat like whenever I want. But like I've mostly heard, like echoing Krisha, like you just forget to eat, like you're doing other things, you forget to eat. So yeah, just do what you can.
I'm personally someone who has like a very defined like eating schedule, and like I have to eat like my 3 meals or I like will feel horrible. But so like the hardest part was definitely like finding things in the dining hall that I like both really liked and were healthy. And so like my biggest tip is eating a salad with every meal, just like just doing it because it's like just good for you. And so like that's what I did.
I think someone asked a lot earlier what UT Planner and what UT Registration Plus is. I'm not familiar with UT Planner, but UT Registration Plus is like the most helpful little tool that you can have for orientation and registration. I would definitely download it, like everyone on here. You just like click on the little icon on Google Chrome, and it'll like tell you like grade distributions for a class. It'll give you like a direct link to Rate My Professor, so you can see how other people think of them, and it gives you like direct access to a syllabus in a lot of cases, so you can see what the course will be like. It just pretty much compiles everything, and you can make like a mock schedule and something like that. Yeah, it's really helpful.
Also for UT registration and UT planner, like have so many, not so many, I'd say like 3 backup schedules. I was registering for this spring last November, and there was this class that we all needed. It's like the second or the third year math, I don't know, third semester math. It's called like differential equations, and like almost every engineering major needs it. And for some reason, when we were registering, they would just like close classes and open them up back up, and then like close it here, and then they would like open it back up just for like 3 minutes. And it was like the most stressful thing ever. And just know that you will never get like a really nice registration experience until you're like, I wouldn't know, I've never had one. So just don't stress out, because it is like, for me, it's just the worst time of the year. So please just like take care of yourself and have a backup, please.
Yeah, also, I didn't realize that like the ad drop period is like a real thing, like that you should take advantage of. This spring I had a very good summer registration experience, I'm sorry. But this spring I had like my classes like went crazy, and there were classes that I wanted to get into that were closed, and sometimes you can go talk to the professor, email them, or like find their office hours somehow and just be like, hey, I'm not in your class right now, but I would love to be. And both of the teachers were like, yeah, sure, like come on in. So that's a possibility too. Just like, and also like, because people are dropping classes during ad drop, there might be spots that open up for you. So yeah, you'll figure it out. It will work out.
Put yourself on wait lists. If you like really want a class, like just put yourself on it. You can get out of it later if you decide you don't want it, but like just do it.
Yeah, also, but one thing on that, make sure like if you get in a wait list, like you can have it like automatically replace another class. Just like don't forget about that. I have a friend like who like was on a wait list for a class, and like it automatically switched with his other class, like, and then he like didn't want it to, so it ended up in like a much harder class for no reason. So to be careful with that. And then yeah, ad drop lasts like into multiple classes. Like first semester I wanted to take like a fun like class. I took like common leadership. I was like, oh, this will be fun, like whatever. The first day I went, it was like you're reading every single class, like a semester long project, like 95 for an A, and I was like nah. So I dropped it after the first class. It's like you can do that, it's not like not that deep.
I also like this semester I signed up for biostats, and I like walked in and it was just really boring, and I like didn't like technically need to take it this semester, so I just like dropped it for another class that seemed more interesting. So like there's like more flexibility than you would like expect from a really big school. Like it's there if you look for it.
Okay, everyone, I have to go. I'm going to eat dinner. Thanks for everyone that came. Hopefully this was helpful, and I think May is going to give our contact information after this. So if you have any other questions or like business or just anything in general that I can help out with, please feel free to reach out. And actually reach out. I promise. We actually want to talk. It's not just a formality like, oh, reach out. Like I'd love to have somebody reach out to me so I can help them out, because so you don't have to go through the same stuff that we've all gone through. All right. Bye, everyone.
Yeah, I'm going to sign off too. But this has been great. I hope it was helpful. Like Ryan said, totally reach out. There, and not just to us, there are so many resources on campus. Don't panic. It's going to be great. And sometimes it won't be great, and that's fine too. You'll overcome it. So bye, y'all. Hook 'em horns forever.
I mean, we're here for like no one's paying us. No one's like forcing us to do this. Like, we're doing this because we love UT. We're doing this because we want people to know how great UT is and for them to be excited, because you guys lost a lot of your senior year. So get excited about your future freshman year, you know? So please reach out. Like, we love talking about UT. You saw us talk about it for like 100 minutes now. So we love it.
Yeah, to add to that, I felt like I had a really good high school experience, and I was like, there's absolutely no way that UT could top that. Like, I'm not gonna find my people. But here I am loving UT, and I think that that's something that everyone naturally at UT does. Like, I know whether you're extroverted or introverted, like I've had friends of all sorts of opinions and perspectives, but they still all we're all tied together by our love for UT. And also, like, kind of closing advice. I'm really sorry that you guys had to miss out on some of your senior year and that things are changing as y'all are transitioning. But I promise you, there are so many people working behind the scenes to make this as great of an experience as it can be for y'all. And I know that you guys are gonna be so happy to be at UT and like find your place. So even if it's stressful or confusing or you feel lonely at the beginning, because honestly, I did feel lonely. No matter how extroverted I can be, it can definitely be hard. But in the end, like, it'll all figure itself out. So just keep having hope and like wake up each day with, you know, a positive mindset, and you guys are going to do great.
Also gonna log off, but also just want to leave you all with just like, as Krisha said, like, we're all sorry that you had to miss out on part of your senior year and like an in-person orientation and everything, which does make things more confusing. But the community at UT will welcome y'all with open arms. We're all like so excited for y'all to come and just so excited to talk to everyone, and like in all our orgs, just so excited for new members. So I just hope y'all are also excited for UT and that this helped y'all in some way. Welcome.
Bye, everyone.